Hi, I'm Lita Leapin.
And I'm Jim Gordon.
Welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
Well, folks, we find ourselves in JJ's Restaurant and Lounge in the Vancouver Community College. Lita, what are we doing here?
We are here for the BC Italian Dish Competition put on by our good friends at the Italian Chamber of Commerce, Canada West.
Oh, we're going to check out some great cooking. I don't think we're going to try the food.
No,
That'll
we're
be
not
up to
the
the
judges.
But we'll talk to all those folks coming up a little later in the show. When you check out this titled track, when we come back, we will be at Alouette French Bistro.
This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Well, 2022 marks a special anniversary for the Canadian Coast Guard. It will be 60 years they have been around. Joining us right now from Victoria is the Assistant Commissioner of the Canadian Coast Guard, Derek Moss joins us. And I love this, Derek. I said I was going to call you Commissioner. You went, oh, no. Just call me Derek. Derek, welcome.
Hey, thanks very much, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here. We're really honored.
Oh, we are too, sir. Thank you. And I was saying to you off camera, I love the motto. I was looking at some of the videos that your production PR department put out, and I love the line, "You don't always see us, but we're there." Talk a bit, if you can, about the history over the last 60 years, and we'll get into some of the many things that have changed, but you talk about your time with them and some of the challenges that, say, weren't there 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Sure, Jim. So the Canadian Coast Guard became an official entity in 1962 with an announcement by the then Minister of Transport. We joined the Department of Transport. Subsequently, over the years, we joined the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. However, as a capability, Canada has had a Coast Guard-like organization almost forever. We can date back to the 1700s when the first lighthouses were put in place and the first search and rescue craft were in place. But even going further back than that, we can look at our First Nations colleagues who were keeping their communities safe on the water. We've learned a lot from their local knowledge and experience. So as we moved through the last 60 years under the brand of the Canadian Coast Guard, we've become known for a number of things. I think foremost in people's minds is our search and rescue capability. People see the red ship with the great white stripe, and they know help is coming. So when the weather gets bad and most people are coming into port, that's typically when calls come in for us, and our ships are going out to sea to help people who've had a bad day on the water. But in addition to that search and rescue, we've evolved. We've highlighted environmental response, protection of the marine environment, protection of marine mammals. We're looking forward to the blue economy strategy, whereby the use of the oceans from an environmental perspective, from an economic perspective, from a safety perspective, and from a recreational perspective endures for generations, and it's something our kids and our grandkids can partake in. And that's what the Coast Guard is all about, protecting what's on and under the water, whether it be through search and rescue, environmental response, traffic management, prevention, proactive, reactive. So we got a full plate and we love doing it.
You know, to touch on the environmental aspect, the element of that in the equation with you guys, Derek, I mentioned to you before we came on camera that I was out at the Sea Island base, the Coast Guard in Richmond the other, talking to your colleague Paul Tobin. We'll have more information on that interview at the end of this one, but I was really not surprised, I was pleasantly surprised in this day and age how much the environmental aspect of the equation is such a large part of what you guys do. Half our conversation he and I had was about the things you guys do environmentally.
So it's a huge component for us. It's a prime mission in our mandate. And it's often, as you mentioned, unsung and unnoticed until something happens. But there's a whole capability left of an incident, if I can use that term, that occurs not only to prevent the incident, but to make sure we're capable of responding and directing, whether it be industry or other capable partners to respond to an incident. So while we have ships at sea that predominantly do the search and rescue, they are involved in environmental response, but we also have caches and teams up and down the coast of British Columbia, and in fact up and down all three of Canada's coasts and in the Great Lakes, who respond from shore. So not only to take smaller boats out to put out fuel booms, for example, to put out pads that can absorb a pollutant, to put out skimmers on the top of the water to collect and then gather a pollutant. So all of those things happen. We work in conjunction, as I mentioned earlier, with First Nations partners whose capability is booming, who we're training and assisting and working with. We work hand in glove with industry, a very important and proactive partner who have a response organization, WCMRC, based, headquartered in Burnaby, BC, who help us out and work with us up and down the coast. And then, of course, our neighbors to the north and south when we look at the U.S. Coast Guard in Alaska and Washington State. So a very, very robust, complex, well-trained group that take care of the environment. And we kind of have a bit of a running joke. I mean, Coast Guard, we were environmentalists before it was cool to be an environmentalist.
That is just such great stuff, Derek. And again, congratulations on 60 years. As I said, you guys remind me of that IT company. Like, no one ever calls just to say things are great, but you're always there when needed. So I congratulate you, sir. And I know you are back on Vancouver Island again. We wish you best of luck over there. And thank you, sir, very much for joining us today. I congratulate you on 60 years and continued safety and success.
Thanks very much on behalf of all of our 1,300 employees, Jim. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your service, sir. Once again, that's Derek Moss, Assistant Commissioner of the Canadian Coast Guard. We should also remind you, I alluded to another interview that we did recently, this one with our partners at the Richmond Sentinel. You can see my visit out to the Sea Island base just in Richmond on the Fraser River. That will be on the Richmond Sentinel's digital website, and a great time we had out there that day. And again, congratulations to the Coast Guard on 60 years.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
She is a Vancouver-based photographer, author, and blogger as the urban nature enthusiast, and she has a brand new book out called City Crow Stories. Yeah, you guessed it. A crow enthusiast, in fact, all birds and nature and all of that type. June Hunter, it is such a pleasure to have you on our city tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
I am such a follower, and we were chatting earlier about that I probably saw your work way back on Granville Island when all the artists were, doing their arts and crafts there.
Yes. Yeah. I think, I can't remember when I first started there, but it must be at least 15 years ago. And and most of my images were crows, and I got into all kinds of conversations about crows with all the customers from all over the world. And it was very interesting because back then there was a good ratio of customers who could not understand why I like crows at all. But over the years, that's probably a challenge for me because I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the crow's main PR person. I'm going to change people's mind because these birds are amazing. And at the same time, more and more science about them keeps coming out. So there are a lot of very articulate scientists who have also been, promoting the crows as intelligent and personable birds.
They are, and they do sometimes get a bad rap, I think. But I want to talk just really briefly about your very unconventional art education, because you're a fantastic photographer and you've delved into all kinds of other art forms as well, starting, I guess, with the crow pictures.
Actually, it didn't start with the crow pictures. Actually, my very first art that I did was actually snow globes. And the reason for that was I often question what is considered illustrious enough to be in a snow globe, and usually it's also buildings. So I did things of buildings on Commercial Drive, like my favorite bookshop.
Wow.
And then I didn't really get into photography until both of my parents died in quite close proximity to each other, and almost as a way to find a bit of peace, because I had two little kids, I couldn't go to a yoga therapy retreat or anything. So instead, I would just go out in the garden, really study plants. And I did that for about 5 years, plants only. But one day I'm bending over and I hear this. You can imagine what was going on in the sky. There was some sort of crow kerfuffle in the sky. So my head went, and it was like, oh my, look, sky, clouds. What are those black birds? And then the more I learned about them, I was lost. But the snow scenes sort of fit in a way, because also the fact that crows weren't considered worthy of being art.
Oh, wow.
Sort of, that just kind of gets my goat up. I think, well, I'm just going to...
Well, Marvin's a great example here. This is one of your loves. Marvin on your gate.
Yes.
He's one of my favorite images that you have done.
Thank you.
Now I know your work is sold around the world, and you've delved into that. We have some examples here. Well, besides your brand new book, one of my close friends bought me the calendar. She knew how much I love crows. Plus, now your images are on tiles and jewelry. It's truly phenomenal. But it's not just crows. You have a very beautiful viral video of ravens. You have a love of ravens.
Yes, well, yeah, ravens and crows, they're all the same family, corvids. And yes, ravens, yes, I've been lucky enough to just catch ravens doing some pretty cool things.
And that's on your website as well. I definitely encourage everybody to take a look. Crows, it's nesting season.
Yes.
Any advice on befriending these dive bombers that so many people, that leads to people hating crows because they're defending?
One thing you should know is that baby crows, they look like adult crows, so sometimes you might not even know it's a baby, but they can't fly when they come out of the nest. So the parents are insane with worry. It's not that they hate you. It's that, like, imagine you had a baby and instead of in your arms, it was a teenager and it wanted the keys to the car. Imagine your stress level. That's the level that the crows are at. So my advice would be to, if your walking route goes past a nest, change your route for a bit, or wear an umbrella if they're going to dive bomb you, or you can wear a hat with eyes on the back, because they'll never dive at your front, but if they think they're looking at you, and you can try and bribe them with just a few peanuts.
Okay, good. Unsalted peanuts.
Unsalted, shelled peanuts, I would recommend.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is June Hunter. She is a photographer, author, and blogger. All of the credits, all of her information, I should say, will be in the closing credits. And your book will be available soon, right?
Yes.
Soon. So get on her mailing list, and you can find out when City Crow Stories comes out. Thanks again, June Hunter.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
She hails from the UK, Wales specifically. She is a leading advocate in the campaign against domestic violence, founder of Stand Up to Domestic Abuse, or SUTA.org. She sits on domestic abuse project boards, challenging the police and government. And along with two colleagues, she has written a domestic abuse course called Voice, Victims of Intimate Coercive Experience, which is now being rolled out in the UK. She has appeared on numerous TV, radio shows in the UK and articles and talked to people in media as far away as Japan. She is also the author of this book right here, The Devil at Home. It's all about her 18 years of severe domestic abuse, which ended in 2011. She's a friend of ours, and she was going to be in Vancouver, so we wanted to have her on Our City Tonight. It's a great pleasure to welcome Rachel Williams. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to dive right into your story, and if you can give a brief synopsis, what led to your advocacy?
Yeah, so I was with a guy called Darren for 18 years. Met him quite young. I was a single parent at the time. He was very charming, and as we know, when you meet somebody who's going to be abusive, you don't get slapped on the first date. This is a drip feed process, and many years in, I knew the relationship wasn't healthy. Didn't know what exactly it was, but I knew it wasn't healthy. There was a lot of abuse. There was physical abuse, mental abuse, and it resulted in July 2011 him strangling me and then slitting his wrist in front of our youngest son Jack, who was 16 at the time. It was at that point the light switch sort of went off, because Darren always used to say to me over those years, there's only one way for you, and that's in a wooden box. So this was always in the back of my mind. He was 6'7", he was 300 pounds, he was a bodybuilder. We had numerous engagements he did with the police, and straight away I could see the police were frightened of him, and this was all documented in reports that he was anti-police, and they were frightened of him. So I felt like I was on my own. But after the strangulation and him slitting his wrist in front of our son, I thought enough's enough. So I finally left him. During a 6-week process, he stalked and harassed me constantly. It wasn't picked up, sadly, by my local police force as a danger, and it resulted in him coming to my place of work on the 19th of August 2011, brandishing a sawn-off shotgun, which resulted in him shooting me after a battle in the salon where I was working. After he shot me, the first shot hit my first leg. It was the fact that I was on the floor in a fetal position. So my left leg took the first shot and the second shot skimmed past me. He then put the gun down, I believe, to reload. I had a supernatural strength. I couldn't retrieve the gun from me. So then he proceeded to pummel me with punches, kicks, stamped all over me. Then he fled the scene. I was rushed to hospital, spent 6 weeks in hospital. But the day of the shooting, I was told then that they found him. He had taken his own life. Which was a relief, but the tragedy in my story is 3 days after I came out of hospital, Jack also took his life.
Jack, your son.
My son, yeah, who was 16.
Just unbelievably tragic.
What really struck me about your story, there's so many things, is that you said to me yesterday that, no one would blame you if you ran away and hid or turned to drugs or alcohol, what have you. But you see this often, that people find that inner strength, and you got out there and I know what you're telling me, you've become a thorn in the side of the UK government, and you're getting stuff done, including this, I love this non-fatal strangulation, which will be a standalone this year.
Yeah, so that is going to be a specific standalone offence now come May, which is going to be great because I've not spoken to one victim survivor who's not been non-fatally strangled or throttled. I didn't realise the severity of being strangled. I was strangled on numerous occasions. It only takes the force of a handshake for pressure-wise on your neck and 52 seconds to kill somebody. And when we look at perpetrators using this, it's a tool to exert power. It's to say, I can if I want. So thankfully, this is going to carry up to a 5-year custodial sentence now.
Probably most women, you have the stats that you can share, have experienced some sort of abuse. Some have been fortunate enough to leave right away and go, but you're right, it's not always exhibited in the first while. Usually it's, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, you pushed back. This is what I can do to you. Talk about when people reach out to you and say, yeah, I didn't get shot.
And it wasn't as bad as yours.
Not severe, right?
Yeah. And what I say to victims and survivors, sadly, and for those that don't know anything about domestic abuse and coercion, domestic abuse is like carbon monoxide poisoning. You can smell it, you can taste it, right, but you just know when it's too late. And that's basically what it is. But when people contact me, and it's mainly women saying, my story's not as bad as yours, I'm not sure if I'm being abused or not, he's never hit me. If you're waiting for the violence, you've missed 98% of the coercive controlling behaviour. And that stems through every abusive relationship. And I say to people, if you can't make your own decisions, your own choices, lead the life that you want to lead, then you're being abused. You're being controlled.
The numbers have gone up dramatically, let's say since the spring of 2020, 2 years ago, because of the lockdown. And all of a sudden people don't have the space, and you're not going to the office and they're not going to the office, you're confined to the house. Talk briefly about how these numbers have risen dramatically.
So, we anticipated that the numbers were going to rise dramatically because, we talk about domestic abuse. When you're living in that environment, it's like walking on eggshells. And I kept saying during lockdown, this is like walking on broken glass. Because, if you're in that household and, people underestimate the power and the strength of victims and survivors. They are classed as victims in that household, but they're actually surviving every day. They're strategically thinking and planning how they're going to pass pacify that perpetrator. You know, they've got breathing space when they go to work or that perpetrator goes to work, you know, they're looking after the kids at home. All of a sudden now, he's there 24/7. It's like a prison sentence, you know, and we know the figures shot up. We know the United Nations figures 1 in 3 women from the age of 15 will experience domestic abuse.
It's globally, yes.
Global, yes. Domestic abuse or sexual abuse sometime in their lifetime. The red flags, once you see them, you can't not see them. And I think, you know, the book has helped so many people. And not only that, to recognise, but also to empower them, to say there is life after domestic abuse and violence, you know, and at the end of the day, I wasn't going to let one man ruin the rest of my life. You know, and as you know, that, you know, I'm remarried.
To a great guy.
To a great guy, yeah.
He's a little too great of a guy. I can't be around him very often. No, he's a lovely guy. Hey, and you know what I wanted to mention to you? We've run out of time, but I want to encourage people to look up your colleague, Jan Monkton-Smith, and the 8 stages of abuse. Homicide. You mentioned to us too that, you know, you get emails from people, women from all over the world. So we're going to have all of Rachel's information in the end credits. Of course, the book is The Devil at Home, an honest explanation and narrative as to what you went through, and I congratulate you, as Lita does, for turning that in and helping people get through this. Rachel, thank you, and by the way, I hope you're enjoying Vancouver.
I'm loving it.
We're back here at the Vancouver Community College. We're not in the lounge where we began the show, but Lita, we're now in one of the school kitchens, and this is where the competition is happening, or at least the judging portion is happening right here. The test kitchen right next door where the competition is happening. Let's tell our viewers, we hinted at it at the beginning of the show. Let's talk to our viewers and tell them what this competition is all about.
Well, the competition is comprised of 3 teams, and each of the team has 2 students with an instructor helping them. The instructor is helping, but they can't do the actual work for the student.
That's right. We should also mention this, as you said, there's 3 dishes. They get an allotted amount of time to do it. Of course, some excitement going on behind us because some of the judges are trying the food. We'll talk a little louder as they do too. We should actually mention too, Lita, the people that are really bringing this together. Our partners who we have worked with many times over the 7-year history of our show, the Italian Chamber of Commerce, Canada West. Also want to mention the Consulate General of Italy, Vancouver, and Cioppino's, one of your favorite restaurants.
Yes.
Of course, the owner, the iconic Pino behind us, he's the owner of the restaurant. He's part of the judging. We're going to have him on very soon, but let's go check out a little of this competition.
Let's talk just briefly, because we didn't cover this, about the cooking competition rules, really briefly.
Well, the rules are very essential. Creativity is important, but to be truthful to Italian cuisine has to be taste and presentation and textures.
Do you think the students are a little bit intimidated by such an illustrious judge being here?
No, I hope not. I've been very friendly with them. I've been giving them some pointers. They are very well prepared and very well trained. So.
John, we have 3 teams here today. It's quite inspiring to see, I call them kids because they're kids to me, but their passion for food and everything like that. Talk a bit about what that does for you when you see these youngsters really doing all they can do.
Well, it's actually something that we really like to promote and to see, to have the students come through, actually go through that competition, timelines and ingredients, and to put things together. It's then being critiqued, judged by, reputable chefs, and also then to get an opportunity afterwards to chat to the chefs to see where they're at and reflect on how they did the competition today. So it's very exciting and rewarding as an instructor to see the students being so competitive in something like this.
You're in between courses that we mentioned. Thanks for joining us. Your thoughts on the competition so far?
Well, the talent and the creativity is very high. They've got some interesting ingredients in the black box, some traditional Italian ingredients alongside some local PC ingredients. So the trick is to make them work in a cohesive way, and we've seen some real creativity. One of the contestants, one of the groups fried the polenta, and it had a really beautiful crispy texture. Another one pureed the pear into the burrata. And I didn't think that would work, but it was really quite beautiful.
Well, very high praise coming from someone like you. That's great. So have you been doing a lot of competitions?
Actually, yes. Yesterday, I was at UBC. The forestry department put on a Ukrainian bake sale, a bake competition. It was a fundraiser for Ukraine. It was wonderful.
Oh, how lovely.
Cabbage rolls.
Hey, it's Alexander Gill, Globe and Mail. Check our stuff out, other publications as well. We'll let you get back to the competition and the eating, and thanks for joining us. Let's not make it 3 years. We haven't talked to you in a long time.
Come sooner. Yeah,
Okay.
sooner.
We have Ilaria here, the Executive Director of the Italian Chamber of Commerce Canada West, one of our very good friends here at the competition. And the Italian Chamber is responsible for being one of the sponsors of this great competition. Tell us a little bit about your participation in this.
Yeah, we are collaborating on this event with the Consul General of Italy in Vancouver. As a part of the celebration of the World Week of Italian Cuisine in the world. So this is a number of events that are happening everywhere in the world, and we thought that for this year to bring together the best of the Italian culinary tradition and the best of British Columbia ingredients, and challenge the schools that are participating in a competition. So this is the first time, but hopefully we'll do it again.
Well, it's successful, definitely. They're having a lot of fun.
Hey, we should say we're in May right now, and this event is wonderful, but we should also mention we work with you guys a lot because you have a lot of events happening. Let's give a little plug now to some of the things that are happening this summer and into early fall.
Yes, so we very much look forward to hosting some other big events for this year. We're looking at June. For June 3rd, we'll have our Authentic Italian Table, which is an event that will take place at the Italian Cultural Center in Vancouver. Again, that's June 3rd to promote Italian food culture and Italian wine culture. And then in the fall, we'll have the celebration for the 30th anniversary of our chamber.
Very exciting.
Which will be a very good one. So save the date for September 29 at the Coastal Harbor Hotel, Vancouver.
Excellent. All the information, of course, on your website. You've got a good website. Thank you, Ilaria.
That's it. Thank you.
Well, we're going to wrap up quickly here at Vancouver Community College. Lita, before we leave, we should thank our friends at the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Canada West, our good friends and partners there, the Consulate General of Italy in Vancouver, and of course, Cioppino. We should also thank all the judges and all the participants. They really were inspiring today with all the cooking they did.
What a great contest. And well, it's time to say goodbye. So I'm Lita Liepens.
I'm Jim Gordon, and we'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight. I thought you were going to say that, but we'll say goodbye anyway.
Bye.
Don't forget to check out past episodes and individual interviews, all on the Our City Tonight YouTube channel.
Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877.
The Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.